has to be connected to the internet.
Thank you. I'd like to call the meeting to order for Monday, April 9th, 2018 for the Daniel Town Council meeting. As usual, we have item number 1, any public comment concerning any issue not on the agenda. I'll turn the tower to the public if there's anything or any comment to be made. Comment.
You have one thing, Skip.
Okay.
The thing is, if you read that comment, that's the water bill that went up this month. It's a little bit confusing. I don't know how we got off track this far, but. Well, it's went out on everybody's bill this month. That Vandy will be getting some calls.
Getting in there, getting. This is for government.
Well, it's probably something to discuss then, I guess, or get clarity on it.
Is that confusing?
Litigation survives though.
Well, to me, for sure, because that's the third version of what we thought we saw last year, or 2 years ago. It's different than what we even discussed maybe a month ago.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, because I think when we get a call, that came today, so. Anyway, that was just something on the water bill. I thought, it's not on the agenda, but I thought I'd bring it up.
Haven't seen it, haven't
We're gonna hand that down to Stephanie. Better review that.
Item number 2, a second public hearing to discuss a community block, development block grant for 2018 for the Storm Haven well replacement project. I'll entertain a motion to come out of regular session and go into the public hearing.
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
Have a second. So we're out of regular session and take a motion also to enter back into, enter into the public hearing. I may have said that the first time, but I wasn't sure if it was involved.
Motion to open the public hearing.
Thank you. Do a second?
No second.
I've got a motion to open the public hearing. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, public hearing is open now for discussion for the Community Development Block Grant 2018 for the Storm Haven well replacement project. I think Kim might be able to shed some light on that for us if you wanted to come up.
Yeah.
And certainly answer any questions that anyone might have after she tells us the good news. I believe it's good news.
Yes, it is extremely good news. We got a grant for $270,000 to drill a new well for the Storm Haven water system. Currently, that well was drilled back in the 1960s. It is in the floodplain. Well, technically, it's like 1 inch or 2 inches above it. It does not have enough sealing. It does not produce enough quality of water for the residents in that area. The Storm Haven residents is a separate water system than the town of Daniel, but the town owns and operates that.
I'm assuming it's going to be dug in a different spot?
Yes, it's actually going to be put on town property instead of private property too.
Good.
So we're digging in a new spot, we're digging at a higher elevation, we're gonna actually put it to standards. It's gonna probably be around as deep as the other Daniel well that we just drilled back in 2009.
Beautiful.
Is the grant enough to pay for the storage tanks?
It is not enough to pay for the storage tanks. We're investigating other options for that. Right now, this is just to drill the new well. That will be covered under our other grants and funding that we're currently actively pursuing.
About 3 to 3.5 mil for the whole tank, purchase, land, lines. Yeah. So we're working toward that number.
It's a good
Wait,
start.
That was a big number, now it's not a big number.
Awesome. This is for me. I actually have a more updated version I was going to bring up during the water meetings.
Okay, perfect. Does anybody have any more questions with regards to just the update and the public hearing and any comments with regards to that issue?
So do you have a well, a person that's already digging that, or are you putting that out to bid?
It's going to be going out to bid. That's part of the process. But before they actually officially award us money, they give them like the notice of intent to award. We have to have public hearings as part of this, and we have to have a second public hearing by May 31st. After that, we go through the developing of the bid and all the other packages that are part of this.
would that cover all of the well itself?
Mhm.
That will be enough to cover the well itself.
Exactly.
We hope.
I went and updated
Prices
this. It
don't
used
go
to be,
too
it
much.
used to be 250, and then it updated to 270 last year, and I'm hoping,
All plastics have gone up
Well,
8%.
steel's gone up, I mean,
Another thing to note on that is as long as the well is in the floodplain, we're having a hard time getting funding for storage. Because our source is in jeopardy, so storage becomes a problem.
it's also within 10 feet of a sewer clean out, and they're not supposed to be that close.
So this is a real positive to get this and get this done. We're hoping, I think, didn't you say maybe drilling come August, September,
Mhm.
in the fall?
And we're planning on doing that in the fall.
How many people live there?
We have 56 connections, so we're estimating about 3 people per connection, which is about 1,500 people. Or, sorry, 150 people. Sorry. Well, yeah, that's small. Sorry,
30 people per home, but that's only accurate for a couple of them.
150 people per home. 100, not per home, 150 people total,
Lots of turkeys.
not turkeys.
Anything else for Kim with regards to that, or any other questions that have to do with the public hearing? Council, any comments?
great news.
Yeah, wonderful.
Chair will entertain a motion then to end the public hearing and to go back, we'll make it one motion and go back into a regular session. Chair will entertain a motion.
I'd like to make the motion to end the public hearing and move back into regular session.
Second?
I'll second
And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, back into regular session, public hearing, item number 2. Now we're on to item number 3, business license applicants.
Okay. We have a new business tonight, Kim Kohler, she's here. Council has any questions for her? And then we have some renewals.
Kim, tell us about your business.
It's none of your business.
Not that business, the other business.
Basically, I'm applying because I've many times been asked to help with flowers for like a funeral where they can't afford it, or a wedding where it's a tight budget and stuff. So it's basically to be able to help out people that need it. They do a little thing here and a little thing there. I'm too old to do anything else serious.
It's needed to be able to get wholesale prices on flowers.
Being smarter. Come dealer.
That's the reason.
My house will smell so good, so full of all the flowers.
Well, then you've got the horses in the back, which makes nice flowers.
There you go. Okay.
Good.
Yep.
So,
Any other questions from you guys?
it. I'm good.
so are you gonna retail out of the house, or you just doing that? That's what I'm.
No, I'm not
No
gonna sell
customers
it.
coming and going?
You know, there might be somebody come over to, say, what do you want?
Oh,
But most of it's done by text, but yeah, no, it's not,
okay,
Mostly done by appointment only.
yes.
awesome. Great.
Yeah, I was gonna file the end, but you want to sit now and then. Whatever you want.
Okay, so are we looking for a vote?
Yeah. Chair will entertain a motion to pass the business license for business.
I make the motion, what was the name of your business, Ms. Kohler?
It's, long ago, I had a business called Kim's Craft, and just stuck with the name just because it's already around, so it's just Kim's Crafts. So,
I make the motion to approve Kim's Crafts business license.
Great. First, we have a second on the motion.
I'll second.
A second, any discussion? All in favor? Approved.
thank you.
We have 2 renewals. Brent and Mary. You guys gotta have a question for him.
Yeah, sure.
I wish you'd have warned me.
So it's the same old business we've been renewing each year, is this
Well,
a,
you have to read me the What do we got there?
We have on this particular one, BMCI Electric Inc.
Okay, yeah, that's since '86.
Okay, so. And we have another one, which would be, CCH2O,
That's the water company.
and that's one you've had also for kind of,
Long time.
yes.
So those two renewals we have. And then we have Kimball Strickland has submitted an application for a new license for ABC Steel Exteriors, doing business as Kimball Roofing and Repair. You'll remember that they came before us in the Peterson complex. And he has Kimball Roofing and Repairs, Classic Car Auto, and area rug cleaning experts. But it doesn't appear that there's an ABC Steel Exteriors. So, I know it says doing business as, but I don't know if we have a square footage problem associated with that.
Arkansas possibly.
I don't know. It depends on what the load would be. I mean, if it's the same people, just, I mean, the same secretary that answers the phone 3 different ways, then probably not. If it's 3 businesses with 3 office fronts, then potentially.
Doesn't sound like it because it's doing business as. Kimball Roofing.
They did know we were meeting tonight, right?
Yes, because I called today.
Probably, two things I'd probably be interested in is if there was a limitation on the building itself and how that encumbers, it's just a,
Well, you remember, we put the parking stalls on the outside based on the businesses that was inside, how many cars they could have there for sale.
yeah, we did, they barely fit because we wanted to park some out there and we had that big long discussion about the parked cars versus customer cars.
Yeah, so,
How much storage is he gonna have on that?
I can't remember what the allotment on the cars was, but I don't know.
I have to go back, but that's a good point. What was based on what was going on inside, we allowed a certain number of cars to be for sale outside. So if that's changing or fundamentally changing the number of businesses and parking spots that are needed, then we may need to revisit the number of cars that are available to be parked out there.
It would have been nice if they could have just explained the actual duties and encompass of that particular business. But they're not here.
Yeah. So I think what we'll do is process those and maybe come back to this one in a minute if we
Okay.
find some clarification, if that's all right. Al.
I would agree, I'm not really quite as comfortable for that building for those 2 questions.
Okay. Super.
Okay, and that would take care of the business licenses, correct?
Yes.
Town branding. I don't know if there's we have a packet, and what we're talking about is a logo for our letterheads. A logo, so we have just been sending out letters and envelopes with just generic. And so we probably wanted, we're trying to, how many packets is it? Just ours?
No, there was more on the table.
Okay. And so if anyone's interested,
Just I know you don't have public comment on this, but
oh, no, I am asking for public. Yeah, we've got some packets out there and just like to,
the city council in Heber and the county council have already had pitches to change all the signage in the county, directional signs and so forth.
with their little logo on the corner of their street's name or.
Well, all the directions to so-and-so and such, you know, wherever they are, and they were talking about on the entrance to the valley, all 3 entrances to the valley coming down the roads, having signage that is consistent with the whole
Valley.
And in fact, it brands Heber Valley at both ends of the 40 and on 189. That's the proposal. I just happened to be in there for another reason, but I was sitting in on that. A big deal. I've got a marketing company that came in and went through all the various parts of Heber Valley and asked questions and talked to people who were coming through, tourists and so forth, and the problems they were having, and it was interesting. And from a brand for a logo for Daniel, I'm just saying that's a good thing, but just to know that there is a move to have a consistent signage throughout the valley for all the directional signs
Probably street signs, I'd imagine, and
Yeah,
as far as the little logos up on the names, or we can probably all have to get
yeah, it's a big thing, and it took all my time that I was waiting to talk, so.
That's why you
Somebody's
don't.
got it in there, I guess.
Well, my understanding is, this would be for our letterhead and just giving us more than just the town of Daniel name in print. And so I kind of get where you're going as far as the branding side. This would be just for our town folks, and I guess everyone's seen it. And
Letter.
That's awesome.
we don't need to make a decision tonight as much as there's some good,
I like
lots of good ones. And
that.
you want to narrow it down to one.
Okay.
So,
So let me elaborate just a little bit on what Nick was talking about. Brian Stark with the tourism board, he's the one that's heading that up. And so what they're trying to do is attract, for the facilities that we have, attract outside business to those facilities. So they actually secured a grant, and so I can't remember how much the grant money was, so I'm not gonna say, but I would be wrong, because I don't know the exact
for
number.
the study or for the whole?
For the signs. And so they've used quite a bit of grant money with some of the transient room tax monies to do this signage. And I don't know, they don't have a design as far as I know yet.
They presented the design.
Did they?
Proposed
Okay.
design, and had several video signs, and they were kind of not arguing, but, signage to say 5 minutes to Daniel, or this direction, 8 minutes to Midway, stuff like that, so that the problem they found is when this group came in, the marketing group came in and started asking questions, they were going to people even in town and saying, how do I get to Midway? They get 5 different.
Fourth left, third right, and you go straight and
Yeah,
turn left.
and they also had a branding issue, and so that's part of it, is branding of Heber Valley as a whole, and all the small enclaves, towns around, are part of that valley. And it was interesting. I just thought about it as you were bringing this up, because something, I don't know how consistent, we would want to be as a town with everything else that's going on in the valley, but I think we want to be somewhat consistent with the image they're trying to play. It's pretty elaborate. There's some interesting stuff.
So as usual,
You can always
the
change
county's
that.
rebranded, Heber City just rebranded, and now we have this coming in right behind everybody's rebranding.
To revamp.
You can always change letterhead though.
Yeah,
That's
I just
a
makes
little
it,
bit worse when you make sign.
we got a good, there's a lot, I don't know how, but it doesn't here maybe. So we can take this back and just continue this particular one, but we take a look at these, and then maybe I can make a phone call and try to get to, how important it is versus our little town versus, obviously matching or working together with the same, look. Make sense?
yeah, and I'm just surprised that they haven't brought that to the interlocal. That hasn't appeared on the RPO, the rural planning, or the interlocal meeting we're all in Mayor Creek.
I didn't even tune up for what?
Yeah, that's what it means, it just seems like it's up. So anyway, as far as ours goes, motion to continue.
We can motion to continue, do we have a second?
I second the motion to continue.
Okay, first and a second, all in favor? Aye. Continue the town branding discussion.
Mary, did you receive any public comment at all on our website?
So 8 of those came from one,
Oh, so we did get some. One,
but she's got one.
Of course.
we got one.
That's what.
Okay,
Because of,
She gave a lot of different ones, and they
yeah,
all have some good merit.
okay, awesome.
Okay, moving on to item number 5, discussion of nepotism ordinance. And that was continued from last month, and as I kind of looked at the ordinance, and as I understand why it's continued, my recollection is every time we do an audit, they bring this particular part up about the audit and realize that every small town kind of has a problem with this issue. Not that they're, some of these are really blatant, but some of them aren't so blatant as far as what's in here with regards to my first cousin. There might be 2 first cousins that work for Heber Light Power. odds in this town are probably pretty good that some cousins work for Beaver Valley Power. So I'm how comfortable I feel with our small little town. I mean, we certainly don't want to have any kind of nepotism issues or problems, but thus far, through our, when we get audited, he's always brought that up and just kind of understands that. So that's my thinking. I'd like to hear anybody else's.
Well, anytime we're gonna hire somebody for the town, it's gonna go through the whole town council anyway,
That,
so. And if it's a relative, who's the only one that's applying for the job, or we can get, well, so be it, but if not, then it's still gotta go through the whole town and be okay.
you know, and
one way or
that's,
the other.
and that's how I understand it, and that's the reason why even Ronnie used to make that kind of comment that all small towns are doing the same issue. So, I don't know about if we want to sign on to this. I can take this and try to find out if it's something we have to sign, or change wording that we have to sign, or we just need to be aware of it, or how important it really is. So, council have any direction that they'd like me to find out about this?
As long as it doesn't encumber the town from hiring the right person for the job, regardless whether it's a relative or not.
Well, and that's kind of why I don't want to go through and go for a vote. I'd like to find that out exactly what the parameters
That's
are.
my opinion. I don't have any relatives looking for work, but I mean,
I could even call, what's
a small
what's
town.
that county's, people that are audit? Gilbert and Sons, is that name ring a bell? I'll call and kind of clarify that with them, and then if, unless we want to go through with this and go over it.
Well, I mean, myself, I don't think we need it, because the Utah code spells it out. So if you're within the Utah code of 5231, all those things are already in there. I don't know why the town has to have another one. We fall under state code. And I think it's just another ordinance that we don't have to, that we don't need.
Now, we certainly won't disagree with you on that.
So you want a motion?
I'll take the motion.
Motion, we table this.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Right.
Municipal ordinance nepotism is tabled for the time being. Discussion and approval, discussion and or approval of ordinance 8.25 amendment A. So, this is before us again. I would love some comment from the council or anything of where we stand. I know it got moved from last month to this month and has been for the last year and a half to 2 years. I just want to make a comment both to the public and to the council. We've worked on this very, very hard with a lot of folks, and I don't know that this is exactly right, and I don't know, and so I would not be afraid to stick with the code that we originally had, and I think we are pretty darn close on this. And so I've heard from both different council members and or other folks that what we had before was probably just fine, and or this one isn't quite as fine as they'd like it. So I do not want to keep going back and forth with planning and back and forth with, I believe that this is what planning is also given us, right?
Yes.
So,
With the corrections and additions, yes.
so they give us a correction that we've chewed on this for the last 3 or 4 months since they have given us that. I'd like to hear what the council has to say.
Well, I have one other question, because I have the sheet from January 17th from the Planning Commission, the recommendation, and then I have the March 5th amendments. And on that last page, if you go to that last page, as I handed that to you, it was one that I had to you though. Letter M was to read, shipping, transport, and trucking businesses are not allowed except for owner-operator with a cap of 2 combinations and no other industrial equipment as defined in K. But now I got something in March 5th that says, I don't know if it was a typo, But number N says shipping, transport, and trucking businesses are not allowed except for owner-operator with a cap of 3 combinations and included in item K above. So the letters aren't matching up to me, and either are the numbers.
So the N and K, and so we had this, the same back and forth. No, it's just, that's kind of what we're getting down to is that.
So they were together, but you remember the council separated those. Because there was an issue of, can you have trucking business and 4 things? And so they wanted to separate those to include that in the number. So the council separated that after it came back from planning.
Okay, so it is supposed to be 3, letter N, which was M,
Right.
is now
That's-
N, it should be 3 versus 2? Okay.
And, so K was the last one I heard, 5 pieces with 3, 5 pieces total with 3 visible. Had anything, discussion been more about how the other 2 might not be visible, in an ag barn, was that ever discussed, or does anyone have any comment with regards to the number of 5 versus the number of 3 that are visible?
What do we decide? All of them? Put it back behind your house.
Tell me how you read that. What do you interpret that in to say?
Well, okay, shipping, transport, and trucking businesses are not allowed except for the owner-operator with a cap of 3 combinations and included in item K. So for multiple weeks, we talked about combinations.
Combinations are
Truck, trailer, pop, is that, a triple trailer, is that one combination, a double truck, one combination? Pretty objective, 10 people kind of got probably 9 different views on how many is a combination.
So, and included in K above, I understand that to be, you could have three truck combinations, and you could have whatever K says, and that's,
I think K was supposed to count against it.
And I believe what Brent's saying, that that's the total, whether you have a combination or not, those 2 were, I think, put together, like Eric said, and they were separated just to say, you've got to be an owner-operator, and
I read that differently. I think you're talking about the semantics of it is, shipping, transport, truck business are not allowed except for owner-operator with a cap of 3 combinations and included in K. Well, these 3 combinations are mentioned in
It should say
K.
including the items in K.
Yeah, so that's the way I read it, is meaning you could have 3 combinations and you could have whatever K says also,
And,
right?
not inclusion, yeah.
Is that the way it's read?
Well, that sounds like what we want it to say.
Need to change
Well,
that.
we want, you.
Hold on, okay, I'm not speaking, go ahead.
Okay, so go ahead, Okay. I think that it should be, 5 pieces should include the 3 combinations.
And that's what I was trying to get at,
Okay.
yes.
Yeah, that's what we want.
Okay.
And I don't read it that way, that's why I'm saying it's confusing the way it's written.
I have a question. It seemed to me, and maybe I'm mistaken on this, but at one point in the planning commission, did the 3 visible from the frontage? I thought that was taken out of that. Eric, do you remember what
That
the?
all went away at some
The
point.
visible?
Yes.
And that's what I had in
We
one
took
of the
the side-
That's
links,
it,
visible.
it's there.
Yeah, and I think it got put back in when we separated it,
Yeah.
because visible from the road, we're like, well, from where,
Accurate, yeah, there's a-
Yeah, so
From frontage,
well, even 3 visible.
yeah,
You got 5 total, and then the rest of that was gone,
right.
the visible thing, because we're not, who can see, who cannot see?
Yeah, that's very subjective.
Yeah.
Brent?
Okay, so K, large industrial equipment such as backhoes, trackhoes, mini trackhoes, skid steers, and lifts are allowed no more than 5 pieces total, period. Scratch the rest of that. Go down to N. Shipping, transport, and trucking businesses are not allowed except for owner-operator with a cap of 3 combinations, including equipment in K above. Does that mean we can't add it up? That's what I'm trying to accomplish, so that we can't have 5 and 6 or 7, whatever the combinations
You have
are.
to take out the "and" if you're gonna have it limited to a certain.
Yeah, the and goes away. cap of 3 combinations, including equipment in K above.
Including items.
In K.
Yeah.
Including items, okay.
Okay, once again, I think that's what this document was trying to say with regards to how
I
many
think
more.
that's what we were trying to accomplish. I don't know how we, it's been a difficult process.
You know what,
so-
put an example in there, that clarifies it. Example, and then that takes the mystery out of it.
Well, and my mind is thinking, and, you know, if you got Mark that might think a combination is different than what John thinks a combination is, but if you tie it back to K, it clarifies whatever that might be, correct? Right, is that what you're thinking?
Correct.
Tom, are you thinking that or no?
I don't see it as defining combinations, tying it back to K. K doesn't do anything with combinations.
I'm just saying that the amounts need to be, you can't have both.
I agree.
That's all I'm trying to say.
Right, that's why-
Mark?
That's what I would write it down.
Any questions? I mean, this is kind of down your alley as far as combinations and talking.
You're up, dude.
Didn't mean to call on you, I just figured you had a thought.
So we did the 3 combinations
I'm
last time.
seeing that there's still, if there's 3 combinations, you can have 2 other pieces of equipment. A skid steer, a backhoe, or a
Correct.
tractor, or whatever, a
Right.
forklift.
That's why.
That's kind of the way I'm seeing it, that's what we're trying to swing towards it being worded as.
So you just said.
I may be
Oh,
wrong.
I'm sorry. Who had another question?
Oh, yeah.
Sorry.
So, I feel a little ill at ease because I don't know anything about this. But if you have a, say, skid steer in its private use,
Correct.
does that count
That's a
as
gray
part of
area.
this? Because I mean, I don't,
Yes.
Anybody that's got 5 acres needs a skid steer.
I agree, tell my husband.
Agree.
Tell my husband, I can't do everything with the tractor. But I mean, you know, if you've got your 5 acres, oh dear, what do they say? See, I knew I'd stick my foot in it, but it's just like, you know, I'm a city girl who's enjoying being in the country, and so if I, you know, I would love to have all this equipment, but I wouldn't, not using it for business, so are these separate or together?
Well, so you missed a lot of meetings before,
Yeah.
so we're trying to.
Okay, got it.
There are a lot, I mean, like a year and a half worth of meetings trying to define that exact issue. And so Mark has his way, and that's why I asked him, we were talking about the N and K. I personally would be the total, you know, if you're gonna have a truck and trailer, that's 1, 2, you know, each trailer to me is a piece of equipment, so one long train is not one piece to me. If we, tonight, I'd love to tie up K and N, and if we can't, then it's just gonna continue on, because it seems like we've got a lot of different opinions here
So
on K.
what
You could
what I'm
interpret
looking
this.
at though is like, we have a truck, I have a horse trailer, a flatbed, yeah.
Those are all
They're
just
private.
considered
They're private.
agricultural.
Yeah.
that's all.
So that's
Those
what
are
I'm
commercial
asking.
vehicles, basically.
Yeah.
So what we're brushing up against is we have some that are using them for businesses, that that's titled in my name, that's my personal stuff.
Okay.
And so now we're up against, okay, so where do we draw the line, what's personal,
You
what's
have to
business?
somewhere designate commercial vehicle versus.
Maybe one more thing on those combinations. In the planning commission meeting, it did come up, and I don't know where we left it, but there is a specific DOT definition of combinations. And there is a definition that happened by members of the community here in Daniel. And I think the general feeling in the planning commission meeting was that, I mean, Daniel has every right to make the definitions in contrary to what the DOT definitions are, but we didn't think that was the best idea, that we should go with the definition of combinations based on federal and state law that already exists. Am I mistaken, Eric? Or
No, that's why would we do a new definition for something that's already defined?
Well, it's defined at a bigger, higher level than our level, and so I guess we ought to probably.
What it seemed to us was that
A legal
even
combination.
if we did define it and somebody came in and said, well, that's not what the federal definition is, we're gonna take you to court on it. We're just trying to avoid going to court over, you know, well, which definition is gonna take action.
Fair enough, yeah.
And it seemed to me at the time that we placed it on the definitions that were already out there rather than having to reinvent the wheel. But that's just my recollection, I don't know.
Well, no, that makes all the sense in the world, and that probably needs to be understood before we sign this document or vote on it.
Yeah, your DOT combination can have up to 2 or more trailers.
It's in length, so that's how they do it.
Yeah, just, the limits are there, but it still could be a long.
Right.
Sometimes you can have 2 trailers that are no longer than 1 trailer.
Yeah.
So
It's
that's-
complicated.
And
That's exactly.
And if you look at those tankers coming out of the basin,
They're huge,
some of those have like 17 axles under one piece of equipment.
but that's just a truck and a trailer.
That's correct,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, they're just enormous. And that would qualify as one combination, where, you know, a smaller operator wouldn't have anything near that big, but, you know, they'd say, well, it's only one combination, and it's just massive.
Well, and if that's the combination, that might then change the views of, what we might want to put in here as far as numbers, because if someone says 2 or more, and you can get a triple, and you got 3 triples, and, you know, that changes the whole purpose of what we're trying to accomplish.
Slippery slope.
Very. Good thought.
Well, I'm still kind of stuck on the planning commission's recommendation for the 2 combinations, because we're looking at home business for and I know we're trying to include K and N together to make it 5 pieces. But when, I just don't recall when we changed this to 3 combinations for the truck and trailers.
I was in the last planning meeting.
It wasn't in planning, it was actually in
It
council.
was in here?
It was council.
Two councils maybe?
Yeah,
2 councils.
it was in council meeting, because we just read that and it was so, we had to separate it to make any sense at all out of those 2. So it was in, planning hasn't seen that back separated.
And if you're using even just these units for your own stuff, it's still limited to 5.
No,
Oh, okay.
Not if it's ag, right?
yeah,
it's
if
ag.
it's,
Well, they're-
this
we're
is only
personal.
for businesses.
Right.
If it's personal, you got a backhoe and you're not
Well,
an excavation
yeah,
contractor,
I mean-
backhoe won't count.
I agree, that,
And that's what we're gonna have.
that discussion we've already settled. Everybody here has a skid steer and a backhoe. I mean, almost everybody.
Well,
Yeah, but
Hear that?
You're talking
Was the
about,
issue
so
when we
sorry
come
about
in
that.
for
you're working on it, it's coming, it takes time.
But now
It's
we're,
coming, yeah.
It's gone.
we are now to the point where people are saying a big trackhoe is a personal piece of equipment.
Depends what they're farming.
And it could be.
So that's where we brushing up against this, we think we got it, and matter of fact, I had a person come to me and say, your code says I can only have one ton. Well, I own a whole fleet of pickup trucks, I don't own any 1 ton, so it doesn't apply to me.
It's never gonna be perfect.
Nope.
So,
If they write it off in their taxes, then
The state definitions that I was just looking at all define it by not just the number, but the weight. So if you have 1 trailer that goes over 80,000 pounds, it's 1 combination. If you have 3 trailers and they go under 80,000 pounds, it's 1 combination. That kind of a definition of it.
it's the bridge formula, if you wanna,
There's some.
So
It's
there's no way
so
there's no way to make it an easy thing, I don't think.
yeah. Well, and then when I read this, at the end of the day, you know what, if a neighbor complains on somebody,
I was just going, it doesn't matter.
we're right back to right where we was, no matter what you got in your yard. Because it has to be compatible, so it really, as I read this, I don't think it's any better than what we have.
You know, as long as most people have backhoes and tractors and skidsters, then that's what everybody has.
the issue when we.
Well, it's not just, that's, you know, the general feeling, that's an actual legal argument. You know, why are you picking on me? Why do you allow everybody else to do this with this and you single me out? And I think the town could be in for some real major problems if we got to the point where we started trying to enforce it and people were saying, well, he's got it, they've got it, but I'm not part of the old boy network, so I don't get it. And I'm being picked on. I think that is absolutely an argument that will be brought out in court. Not can be, will be.
Well, there's no doubt, you can't make one person comply.
That's
not
correct.
everybody.
That's correct.
That's a
You know,
given.
for apples, you're exactly right. If you have a neighbor that turns you in for X, you deal with it. If you have a neighbor that doesn't turn you in and we don't know anything about it, but you're still violating it, we don't know until we get turned in and
All right,
deal with it.
it's complaint driven, so
So that's,
And as soon as we get that first complaint on that one guy, that guy's gonna make the complaint on the one down the street.
I wouldn't
Could
disagree.
be.
I've watched a lot of this.
Well, absolutely, though, that just makes sense.
That's when misery loves company.
Yeah. Salt Lake City had a fencing ordinance, and they came out into the neighborhood where I operated the business, and I watched 2 or 3 neighbors with a 6-foot tall fence right on the sidewalk, and they said, well, you can't have a 6-foot tall fence, so you gotta be 4 feet tall. And the very first thing they did when they got into court was they said, well, there's one, there's one, there's one, there's one. Now you're gonna enforce it all now. Oh, we don't have the resources to enforce it. Then you don't have the resources to enforce it. And the guy won. It's just
Yep.
very sticky, very, very tricky to bring about.
And we even have that in this town. I go out with a violation and I show them the code, here it is, and they point to the neighbor. And I'm not dealing with the neighbor, here's the code, you're in violation, you need to fix it.
Right.
And so that's where it goes. And until we get the signed complaint to the next door neighbor, then I go there. And so that's the only way we've been able to handle it at this point. I mean, we can,
And we've been lucky, Eric, we're rural with very casual relations between neighbor to neighbor, most of us.
yes.
Sometimes we get feuds going, and when the feuds get going, I mean, hey, enforce him, he's got dandelions growing. Well, gosh, you know.
yeah, and
I got my spike fence.
I think Tom's right, we're not gonna get this perfect. And that doesn't mean we shouldn't continue. I mean, we've gotta come up with something. It's either that or we put everybody out of business.
Well, the only thing I'm thinking, if you give this much, people are taking this much without complaint. If you give them this much, they're gonna take this much without complaint. So that's, I mean, I've just seen it for years and years and years. So that's where those numbers become a problem, but then you're right, the numbers can be a problem because, you know, some.
I think with these changes that Brent suggested here, I think we're just right there. I think that we're hammered this and hammered this. Now, unless somebody else feels different, I think that the easiest way to avoid unnecessary arguments is let's take the definitions of combinations that are already existing. So if somebody comes and says, well, that's not a combination. Oh, yeah, it is. Here, take a look at federal code, take a look at state code. There you go. And that argument goes away. And some of the other things that we have, it just becomes kind of what, as a community, we're willing to put up with.
Well, Eric brought, you know, what we've had all along, and I, you know, got highlighted, any home occupation shall not change the, so I think the old version, this version, all the versions, won't change the character of the home and the neighborhood, should follow the general plan of the town. Business will coexist with existing uses without creating conflict with the neighbor.
That's kind of our safety net.
That's our safety net.
Yeah.
Exactly, that's kind of, so all of these other things that I myself and probably others are looking at, it comes down to that, and then our next one, you know, the applications, when this gets passed, kind of go through a little more rigorous detail, I believe, as far as them coming to board planning, and so there's those issues that kind of get.
Plus, if it goes to the commissions, it's not the arbitrary decision of one individual. Where it goes to the commissions, and it's met and discussed, and there's more than one individual on the commissions, it's like, well, you had your shot, you came in, you made the argument, but everybody else felt no, that wasn't the way it should be. And I think that the commission process in and of itself is very strong, that we have a lot more strength doing it that way than just somebody saying, well, no, we don't want anything like that in Daniels, and boom, out you go. I think that we have to be consistent, and we have to be, you know, more than just one individual. I think that changing the neighborhood aspect that Eric brought up, I think that's the way to go with this.
Well, we certainly have tried to accommodate as many personalities in this last year and a half to accommodate this, and I know we're darn close. Eric, what are you thinking? You're tired. You're
Well, I just don't think we're close. I don't think we're close at all. I look at it, we have a whole bunch, but the first line says it all. If it's
So,
not compatible and you get a complaint, we're done. Doesn't matter what else is written in there. I already have that code.
so are you saying
Which
that
line specifically, Eric?
the first paragraph of the, maybe it's this third, there's two sentences and then a paragraph, and that kind of purpose of this chapter, first page.
Yeah, that first paragraph, 82507.
So the old one has that same, almost same verbiage, maybe it's not the same verbiage, but yeah.
I don't think it has to provide an opportunity to operate small
No,
business.
absolutely doesn't.
But I think that needs to be in there, to provide the opportunity. Traditionally, we've had people in Daniel doing a lot of honest, legitimate business. Now, whether they do it from their home or whether they do it from a different site, that's what we're kind of putting the fine point on.
Yeah.
I personally, as long as we're talking about it, I'm willing to go on record and say, I don't think that we should be a gated community to where you can't do anything. I don't think that Daniel should ever become a Park City or Olympus Cove or, I mean, any of the other places around where you can't barely drive a service vehicle through their jurisdictions. I think that most of us here in Daniel work, and we work hard, and we try to make an honest living. And I think we should encourage that. I think that when you try to get too controlling, I think that's where you really run into the problems. My personal thought, that's taking off all the hats, that's just me, a guy.
Okay, I'm not gonna move, it's the same subject, same document, but I'm gonna go to O. And we were waiting for me to check with council with regards to short-term rentals. So, the last item on this particular one says short-term rentals, motels, bed and breakfast, and reception centers are not allowed. So I had a discussion, and the way that works is anyone can advertise all they want, but we don't know, or no one knows that they are truly renting their house out. I was told it's in our code, not a problem, we just have to have proof, we have to have evidence, not just a newspaper ad. So specifically, rental car plates for a few days, someone taking pictures, a neighbor testifying saying, I know the rentals because he told me, but we have to have proof, and we certainly can enforce it, and it's certainly something that a lot of municipalities are trying to strengthen their code, but at this point, it is definitely, we have to have proof, not just an ad, because we cannot go after them with the ad. So I got that clarified. And if I said something wrong, add to it.
The clarification is you can't use the ad for your evidence.
Correct.
That's not evidence.
So that's what we're talking about. We've got, how many cars are going in and out a day? A neighbor could say, hey, we got cars in and out all day. We got different license plates, different states. We got this. Once we have that little trail, that's what we need. We don't,
What is short term?
Airbnb, one night rentals. So that would be short term. And,
Weekly, monthly?
Anything less than 30 days is what the state definition on it.
So if someone's moving or renting or something, that's not the issue, it's that the night rental. So, once again, I saw, we saw an email come through, we have some in town that I've been told about, a couple of three, and the only way that we can enforce it would be like we do any other code violation, like a signed documentation or proof or something.
It's gotta be history of it.
Photographs work really well, I was told, a written document, written statement by somebody.
Like a neighbor statement?
Literally.
Okay.
Yep, a neighbor statement saying, you know what, 3 cars came in here, license plate, I mean, the better the documentation, the better, or the more documentation, the better, excuse me. But that's it, rental car stickers, how many days was it there? Different state license plates. That's how.
So what is the penalty?
It's a Class B misdemeanor, punishable $1,500 and 30 days in jail.
Okay.
As of before the last legislative session, I don't know what they did to it last session.
You can pay me and I'll go rent the place and get your proof.
Well, I was gonna say, what if you contacted them and you got an email with a contract or something, or what their
You know, that I was told evidence can be a wider range of things, and visual, and those are the things we just discussed. We didn't,
Right.
actually, that didn't come up, but that's probably a good way to gather some evidence. Okay, so that takes care of number 6, or excuse me, item O. Does anyone have any more questions, or that's the only clarity I have on that? Okay.
I do have a couple items on that, but I'll go over them in the planning report on that item.
So if not still feeling comfortable with that we have work to do on this, the chair will entertain a motion to do what we want to do with the home occupation for tonight.
I'll make a motion to table it.
We have a motion to table it? We have a
Second.
We have a second to table it. We have a first and second. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? That 2 or 1? That's 2.
Yeah, just one, I don't.
Home occupation will be tabled until such time we bring it forward.
So now it just dies, that's where that's,
It doesn't die, so we're still working on the same code as we are at the very moment.
But it won't come back on the agenda until somebody puts it there. So somebody's gonna have to do something with it to bring it back.
We probably have a
So
solution.
it's the original code that the town already has.
Right. We're still back, which we're still operating on. That never went away. It's still the original code. We just can't seem to get this thing close enough to
So,
change.
do I understand that everything's been discussed over the last 2 years?
year and a half is just,
Yep.
we're
Just sitting on the table.
Dr. Blake?
No, I mean, if you can't get an agreement, that's what happens to things. If you got too many different forces in there, okay, we'll just stay with what we got.
But what we got is bad. It's horrible.
Here we go.
Just start over.
Giddy up.
No, this is what we want.
Well, before this, what's, without this, what's in place is bad. I mean, a lot of businesses are gonna violate that.
And when they get a complaint, then that, at this point, until we bring this back, a complaint, which that's kind of the meat of the whole document, is the complaint and everything. I agree with you, John.
Yeah, I know you do. I know we all do, but man, I wish we could pass that. Just at least get something better than what we got.
yeah, so.
I mean, if it's not perfect, come back to it.
Agreed?
We've been back to it. You think there's gonna be anything before the next year?
Well, I think we're really close.
Can we pass a partial on
Hammer it
Oh,
out.
you don't want to do that.
it? Okay. That would drop
I mean, we can keep it
down.
on the agenda and talk about it for an hour like we have for the last year and keep on doing it, but
Maybe sometimes, just a thought, okay, and sorry, I'm speaking out of turn. Sometimes the best way to deal with something is to put it out of your mind for a while and then come back to it fresh.
I don't believe this is going anywhere. It might not be, sitting on, in the file folder for a month or two, whenever, but it's not going away. The subject's not going away.
Yeah.
Okay, one question. We didn't really, we read it and we reread it, but we didn't make any changes
Tonight or when?
tonight.
no, we did.
We did make some changes. What
Yeah.
did we change?
We changed the
K and O,
K and O.
or K and N.
Yeah, N.
Just-
So we did away with 3 visible from frontage?
Yes.
Okay.
Included in the items K above, I think is what we added, or something very close to that.
Mary, what'd you end up?
Put an example. Put a couple of examples.
Including,
Because the only thing I know is on N, to change it to combination, and then include the items above. But there was kind of a bunch of wish-wash.
Includes item above?
yeah, including items above, that's what we added. Including items above.
And we
So
did
did
away
we
with,
change anything on K?
yes, we did away with
We
3
took
visible.
3 visible from frontage is gone.
So just total, the 5 total.
Okay, so that's headway.
Yes,
We changed something.
we did.
I feel
But
like
then we
did-
tabled it now, and now it's just gone.
Yeah, it's not gone, John.
Well, no,
No,
but I
but
mean,
that'll be what we read next
I know,
time,
we're,
correct?
people are.
no, it's tabled, it's not on the agenda until someone brings it up again.
It could be on next month, but right now it's tabled.
No, I mean, the next time we pull this up, it will be with those changes that we did.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, that's all we're at.
So we voted on these changes then?
No.
No.
No,
we
we
don't
voted
vote.
on it.
we haven't
We just
said
tabled
anything.
this. We didn't make any changes.
All we
came in
did
and
was
we
change
changed
the word verbiage.
We're still we're discussing.
We
that,
haven't
and that's
voted on
another
anything.
discussion.
Okay, so I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but since we're tabling this, we can't come here and delete stuff and change it
That was already deleted before we tabled.
without
Before
a
we tabled
vote.
Before we
voted.
But did we vote on that?
No.
No, you haven't voted on anything. We've sent it to planning, they've written it.
So-
You came
so-
here, we
So
read
these
it.
verbal changes were just verbal, they were not
They
voted.
weren't voted on.
And they may change next month when we bring it out. That's just what was discussed tonight, that she's gonna have changes made. So none of this is set in stone, none of this has been voted for, it's.
We haven't voted on any of this.
Any of the changes.
Yeah, so, okay.
So this is just getting, Mayor will have the minutes enough to bring this, our next one will have these two changes, and at this point, we're trying to work them down.
Yeah.
Yeah, these are just the things that we had disagreements on, and we tried to narrow it down.
Well, are you gonna write out a lot? I guess it's complaint driven, right? So hopefully no one complains against these other guys that are trying to make it.
Well, are we come up with a solution, or tonight, that's the way it's
I
at?
mean, it is what it is. We're all trying really hard, so, I mean, it's not like there's a room full of bad people. We're just trying to get it figured out.
I mean, I think, not thinking about it for a month or something, someone might have an epiphany.
Yeah.
Might be tired of it, and I'll.
Anytime it comes up now, everybody just shakes their head.
You guys were talking about that, that's what they said.
No, we tabled
Burned it.
So I'm not making changes then?
Yes, you'll be making those changes we did tonight,
In K and in N.
and then that document will be tabled, and, I mean, we're just gonna have to figure out that, I don't think, it's just my opinion, but when I read that first paragraph, nothing else in this document matters.
But what happens if that document says you can have X, and you get a complaint against that X, that person say, I am legally right to have X, because it says right here, I have X. And then you go up there and you say, well, you can't have a complaint against it.
Right.
And then they're
So
gonna-
you're right back to square one, that we already have. If you have a complaint, we have a problem. And this document doesn't fix that.
I agree with that, I just,
And so that's what this document needs to do, is fix that.
I don't think that's possible, quite honestly. Anybody
It's
with
the table.
$100 can sue anyone, so,
That's true.
I mean, we're never gonna get away from that, if that's your goal.
Well, my goal is that I would have to see that paragraph changed that would allow, because people complain all the time, and when I go out there, it's not because of the equipment, it's because they hate their dog. When you get to the bottom of it, they hate their dog. Has nothing to do with the complaint that I get, but that's what they're looking for.
Any way to hit them.
Yeah, and so anything they can dig up, that's what they do. And so
So
if,
anything they can find.
so if we say that you can have 5 combinations, then you have to take out the complaint. Because if the complaint is launched and they're within code, then it's just like any other complaint I go out on. I don't do anything, it's an unsubstantiated complaint.
That's right.
The town will not pursue it if it's not substantiated. And so with that, the first thing they're gonna say is right there, done. Well, my hands are tied, I can only enforce the code that's there.
Well, then we're really close. I disagree with what you're saying. We just need to decide.
That was the first paragraph.
Yeah, they're gonna, well, you can't, people are never gonna quit complaining.
They won't.
No, so I can't help you there. All we can do is settle on a number.
Well, yeah, and the complaint process, where
Yeah.
do we initiate something? That's a lot of work, that's a long ways from this document. But we are closer.
I don't know that we are, but from what I've understand, Eric, so far, over the course of many years, you have had very few written complaints.
That's correct. People launch a complaint, but they will not put their name on a written complaint.
And so we don't really need to address those, right?
And have they been complaints against businesses?
Businesses, individuals,
Illegal businesses or licensed businesses?
both. Both. And I got to tell you, they hate it, and I say, sign a complaint. I can't go on a verbal complaint. Sign the complaint and I will deal with it. They won't sign. Well, if you're not gonna sign the complaint, then go over there and talk to your neighbor and work it
Yeah,
out.
work it out.
I mean, that's what we really want, but if I have to go, I'll go, but sign the complaint. The council, as soon as they sign that complaint, the council spend the taxpayer money. because our attorneys are involved.
Right, right.
And we're going for it. So if you sign that, you know that you're gonna be in
get
court
action, yeah.
as the witness. And people are reluctant to do that, which I'm glad for.
Yeah.